Hello, and welcome to the Common Geeky Program.
Jeff,
Okay.
you need to speak in pregnant pauses to emulate the Snyder style.
Yes, so we
We're not.
are a book club style podcast where each episode, I'm going to talk at normal speed now, we discuss a topic from our own geeky and nerdy perspectives. And yes, I am your host, Jeff Leavitt. And yes, we are talking about this week the Snyder Cut, which will, if you're unfamiliar, we'll fucking explain that a little bit more in a bit. But yeah, I'm joined by two fellow nerds. Who are you guys?
Hello, I'm Taeemul, or Chowder, whichever you prefer. I'm furious at this film. And, for the literal last few seconds, like the rest of the 4 hours, yeah, sure, it was a boring-ass flick, but...
Chowder and I, before recording, decided to have a little bit of a race where he started watching the Snyder Cut roughly at the same time that I decided to watch the original cut of Justice League to brush up on it. I won the race, unsurprisingly, because the film is 2 hours shorter. But yeah, who else am I joined by?
Hi, I'm Jocelyn. I have only seen the Snyder Cut version. I refuse to watch the other version.
Yeah, they're less different than I remember them being, to be honest. But yeah, so we're going to start off by summarizing this topic and then discussing it a bit, breaking down some of the more egregious scenes and motifs, and end with our little rating section where we decide if the topic today was worthwhile and enjoyable. That'll be I suspect, an interesting discussion, which will probably come out quite a bit before that. But we're going to move on to the summary here. Woo. So for those of you who don't know what the Snyder Cut is, so in 2017, right? Is that what the original one came out? 2017?
Yes, 2017. I double-checked that.
We got the Justice League movie as a part of the DCEU, the expanded universe, their film universe. And because of, there were some interruptions during filming where tragically one of Zack Snyder's, maybe his only, I don't actually know, his daughter died. So he had to stop production on the film, and the direction was handed over to Joss Weden, who we've talked about before on this podcast. I like a lot of Joss Whedon's films. He is a pile of shit as a human being, which is unfortunate, but the movie was a huge mess, and it started this kind of outcry from mad fans who wanted to see the quote-unquote Snyder Cut, which is Zack Snyder's original envisioning of the movie, because he said that this was not really, what he had, and there's 2 extra hours of unused footage and stuff like that. And it became kind of this meme on the internet for a while until recently we, of course, got the news that actually they are going to fund and make the Snyder Cut, and it released... a couple weeks ago? I can't remember when it actually released.
Time ago? Time, it doesn't exist.
I think
this year.
Month ago,
Yeah, it released early 2021, so, for if you're listening way off in the future, that's when
it was in
happened.
March, right?
Yeah, something like that.
So
sometime in March?
Yeah.
But, so the movie is a whopping 4 hours as compared to
and 2 minutes.
2-hour run of the original. It has, we're going to break down some of the differences, but I'm not going to bother doing the plot synopsis for both, because they are actually, when you break them down, roughly the same plot. There's just a lot of kind of added stuff in the Snyder Cut and some removed stuff, but I'm going to start off by kind of zooming through the plot of the Snyder Cut, and then we'll circle back around and break down some of the scenes and some of the things that are worth talking about. So the film begins immediately after Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice, with Superman's death at the hand of at the hand of Doomsday, Lots of stupid fucking DC villain names. And then we get this shit
dudes.
where like Superman's like scream in the form of sound waves like travels the entire fucking world, because I guess Zack Snyder has no understanding of how sound works. And,
that is yes.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that again later. Yeah. But so since there is no Kryptonian guarding the planet anymore, or Green Lantern, as that'll be explained later, protecting the Earth, our big bad Steppenwolf decides that it's chill to come back to Earth and get the 3 mother boxes. So what that is it's revealed that thousands of years ago, the evil alien tyrant Darkseid came to destroy the Earth using these mother boxes, and they
didn't he find the mother boxes on Earth, or?
It's unclear.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think we ever get told.
My understanding was that he brought them there, but I don't know. We'll get into that. But
I think he brings them there. I think that's what they say in the story.
Because they're like an apocalyptic. I was under the impression that they use those to destroy all of their planets, and then they're just either get new ones or bring them back or bring them again. Probably use the same ones, because otherwise why would they try to bother gathering these ones? But anyway, so the mother boxes are used to merge into the Unity, which is like a crazy powerful weapon that like terraforms the Earth into their like homeworld planet Apocalypse, spelled of course not at all like the word apocalypse. And then the combined forces of the humans at the time, the Amazons, Wonder Woman's people, the Atlanteans, like Aquaman's guys, and also, you just fucking know what Atlantis is, right? Like, I don't have to explain that to you. The old gods and a singular fucking Green Lantern who was there for whatever reason, beat up Darkseid's forces.
Just one lone. Sorry.
Yeah. But like, let's fucking be real here. It was like mostly Zeus and Ares that fucking did all the work. Like, yeah. And so they successfully split up the mother boxes and gave one to the Atlanteans, gave one to the Amazons, and gave one to the humans. I don't know. Maybe fucking giving one of them to the gods might have been a good fucking idea. I don't fucking know.
Okay, them giving a box to man was the dumbest thing you could ever do.
Yeah, or
they just buried
one
it.
To the green. Well, I guess the Green Lantern at that point was dead in the battle, but
they literally buried a box and were like, "That's fine."
There's
like
more
the
than
Green
one
Lantern,
Green Lantern
being
though.
there means that they knew that there were aliens, so they should fucking get one off the planet, right? I don't know.
Literally, the boxes are dumb.
But yeah, anyway, in the present day, Steppenwolf shows up. I guess he's like a disgraced minion or lieutenant or something of Darkseid. I don't entirely recall what he's disgraced for.
Like, something about betrayal or whatever, but like...
Yeah, there's some line implying that maybe he got too ambitious and tried to like usurp Darkseid or something, but they don't really get into it. So he goes and fucks up the Amazons and takes their mother box, because of course the Amazons and the Atlanteans have not advanced as a society in thousands of years because they live longer. Do the Atlanteans live that much longer? I don't know. But,
I mean, Atlanteans do have...
This is our first movie with them, right?
Yeah, I mean, Atlanteans do have like Atlantean technology that is pretty darn advanced, they just...
Sure, but they haven't advanced in the way that human beings have, in that they've, like, completely forgotten about the existence of the mother box because it's been generations and generations and generations, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it makes sense that the Amazons would, because they were, like, some of them were literally there alive at that time, but, I just get irritated when it's like, there's this fucking other human civilization that's been separate, but they're exactly the same as they were thousands of years ago and haven't evolved at all. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But meanwhile, in the meantime, fucking Batman is feeling all guilty about the death of Superman, and he can tell that there's some bad shit coming because he's Batman.
He had a dream?
Yeah, he had a dream at some point in a previous movie. I can't remember exactly what leads to that, but it's not that important. And he goes to a little, I think it's Icelandic village to find Aquaman.
Yep.
Yeah. And recruit him. Aquaman basically tells him to fuck off. Then we get some other scenes for like character establishment of like Wonder Woman, who saves who like stops a bank robbery and rescues some people. It's a nice
I think it was a terrorist attack. but it's same difference.
Yeah.
Okay.
Flash,
it was a very weird
who fucking is trying to get a job, and we're going to talk more about this scene, I fucking promise you. But he's trying to get a job, and he uses his speed powers and stuff like that, and picks up a hot dog. And then Cyborg, I think maybe this scene is a little bit later, but it's worth mentioning here, like where it's revealed that Cyborg, his powers...
Cyborg is before Flash.
It doesn't. I mean, it doesn't matter the order of the scenes. I'm just trying to.
The order. It's just annoying because like Flash doesn't get introduced until like over an hour into the film, and it's like yeah. But go on.
But yeah, so Cyborg he got into a car crash with his mother. His dad is a scientist who was never really there for him. And his mother died, and he almost died, and his dad is all guilty. He was studying one of the mother boxes, and then he uses the mother box to bring Cyborg back to life and make him a cyborg, right? His name is Victor, not Cyborg. That would be wild if his name was fucking Cyborg to begin with. But and then there's this whole fucking heady nonsense about explaining like all the shit that he can do through his powers. Like, yeah, you could punch stuff and shit, but you could also rewrite the entire economy. And I'd like a good explanation for why he doesn't just do that later, because like it does need to happen.
Yeah,
but
I think it's because his father kind of says like you know that you can't use your powers for all of this,
right?
Because there has to be like they do a weird line to cover their asses.
It's just weird, or it's just like, oh, you have the power to do these things to basically like fix society, but like don't.
Yeah,
I don't know. But yeah, basically, so we've got those scenes kind of establishing all that stuff about the characters. Where am I? Okay, Steppenwolf goes and takes the Atlantean mother box too, has a little fight off with Mira, who's played by Amber Heard, who should be unemployed from Warner Brothers. I'm going to take a stance on that one. I don't know.
I just keep watching this movie. I kept forgetting that there wasn't a movie before this to introduce any of these characters.
Sure, I mean,
and so I kept thinking I was supposed to know who she was.
Yeah, wasn't because like in the her character is expanded upon obviously in the Aquaman movie, but the Aquaman movie was released after the original Joss Weden version of Justice League.
Yeah, like we wouldn't have any
also,
idea who this was
if
it weren't for the fact that the Joss Whedon, or not, the Zack Snyder movie, like literally came out after the Aquaman, after it was supposed to.
Right. So it would. I still hold. Go ahead. Sorry.
Wait, but is she in the OG?
Yeah, she is. Volko.
Because that was the thing, is I kept feeling like I was supposed to know who half the characters were that they were introducing. Yeah, I was like, I don't know who any of these are.
Willem Dafoe's character is not in the original, because the Justice League movie does take place before the Aquaman movie. I think either version would. Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, some confusing characters being there.
Okay, cool. Anyway.
And then, like, it's fucking hardly worth mentioning, but I just feel like I have to fucking bring it up. Somewhere in there's a scene where Lois Lane is talking to Martha Kent, Superman's mom, and she's like trying to convince her to like move on from the death of Superman or whatever. And then she leaves, Martha does, and then it's revealed that she's Martian Manhunter for whatever fucking reason.
Like, why did he even bother doing that?
I don't know. Again, we're gonna circle back to that, but I figured that somewhere like this would be around the right time to mention that scene happened.
Mind if I just accelerate through the rest of this?
Chowder, I've got a whole thing written out. I promise you, it's most of it is abridged, but there are some other scenes that I have to talk about. Also somewhere in here, Steppenwolf discovers that Earth is the planet the Darkseid was beat before, and
we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, but basically it's like a whole fucking like lost a planet, Master Darkseid did. How embarrassing.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Okay, that joke didn't land, but
sorry.
The team. So the team, not including the Martian Manhunter because he's not really in this movie, gets together because Cyborg's dad is abducted by Steppenwolf along with some other humans because they're trying to find the human mother box. And then they get the mother box from Darkseid, and they use it to resurrect Superman with some sci-fi nonsense. And then they bring Superman. What? They bring Superman the mother box. Sorry, I'm reading my own shit. Please cut this out.
They bring Superman back to life with the mother box. Superman goes crazy because I guess coming back to life does that to you. But like that's more of a Lazarus pit thing, not a mother box thing. But
well, I mean, whatever. Go on. Basically, like, Lois Lane snaps him out of it, and then he leaves. And then Silas Stone takes the mother box back into the lab, and Steppenwolf is, like, showing up to take it. And then Silas, by the way, is Victor's father, if that wasn't clear. Cyborg's dad. He basically, like, superheats the mother box and kills himself in the process using this crazy, like, laser chamber or whatever. And then Steppenwolf just takes the mother box anyway, and Cyborg is all fucked up about it. But then they find out that the reason that he did that was so that it could be tracked through, like, heat tracking through satellites, because, you know, Bruce Wayne has access to satellites and stuff like that. So basically he sacrificed himself so that he could go to the location of the final fight, which is, I think, somewhere in Russia. It was in the original movie. I can't remember where it's supposed to be in this one. Probably still Russia. I can't imagine why they would change that. And then during the final fight, like, they fight for a while, and then there's this whole plot where Barry is trying to run around in circles to get enough of an electrical surge to help Victor, who's working on the mother boxes, to separate them. And then eventually Superman shows up, and he's got his black suit, and his memories are back, and he fights off Steppenwolf pretty easily. And then right before Barry is going to go, like, run up to Victor and give him the charge, he gets shot in the leg, which fucks up the whole thing. So the mother boxes merge and they kill everyone. And then while that's happening, Barry taps into the Speed Force and runs faster to reverse time. And he basically brings it all back. Then they beat up Steppenwolf and fucking cut off his head just as the fucking portal to Darkseid is opening. And then they fucking, like, toss his head through, and Darkseid's like, I don't give a fuck. I don't even like this guy. And then we get a couple, they're not really post-credit scenes. One of them is, like, a new version of the post-credit scene from the original, where Lex Luthor gets out of jail and he meets up with Deathstroke, who then he, like, reveals that Batman is Bruce Wayne, which is not how the original scene went, and we'll fucking get into that later. And then there's this long post-apocalyptic future where Batman and the Joker have a little non-consequential back and forth about, like, you know, how everything went wrong, because apparently Lois was the key, and when she got killed, then Superman went crazy, which enabled Darkseid's forces to return.
I hate that so much.
Yeah, it's like a common plot point of, like, the Superman being evil thing, but it's nice that there's evil, at least some, like, consequences to fucking bringing him back to life. I don't know, but not really, because the whole thing is a fucking dream. What annoys
me about it is, like, how he goes evil. It's, Lois died, so now he's mad, and it's like, God, it's not that hard,
like, didn't we have any more faith in that fucking character? But but none of it is really consequential at all, because Bruce wakes up and that was all a dream. Maybe a premonition, but it was a dream. And then Martian Manhunter shows up again and is like, thanks for getting that team together, even though he didn't fucking help at all, even though he clearly could have, but just didn't fucking do it for whatever reason.
Like, where were you? You have psychic powers. You can enter people's heads.
Right. Like, could have been one of. But I've got some thoughts on that, but that's pretty much the plot.
I mean, you missed one important thing. So in the trailers for the Snyder Cut, there is like Joker.
Right, we'll talk about this first.
Well, there is a part where, like, Joker looks to the camera and goes, "You know, Batman, we live in a society,"
which is like a meme.
And it was, like, such a stupid line. It was a meme line, because, like, you know, people would always joke about, like, and Joker being, like, deep because we live in a society. And then he just says the joke line, and it's like, seriously, unironically, and it's like, okay, I kind of have to know what the context for this is. There is none. It never gets said. It
doesn't
never
happen
gets
in
said.
the actual movie.
Lies! Damn lies!
Which is, yeah, I feel sort of similarly to that as I did when, like, they obviously put in the Hulk in the fucking Infinity War trailer when the Hulk really wasn't in that movie, you know, where it was just like, I don't think that maybe this was ever meant to make the final cut. I think that they put that in there to strum up controversy or something like
exactly.
that. I can't imagine, because, like, that's the whole thing with the Joker in general, too, and Martian Manhunter, might as well talk about this now. Is
they
that,
might as well just not be there, yeah.
Right, they might as well not be in the movie, because, like, but the thing is, I kind of don't feel like they were ever in the original movie, because the whole thing with the Snyder Cut, right, is that, like, oh, show us how Zack Snyder originally intended it, right? And I just straight up don't believe that these characters were intended to be in the original version of the movie. Yeah. I feel like once they decided they were doing the Snyder Cut, they felt obligated to add in a couple characters to, like, you know, make people think that this is a different movie. Oh, the Justice League
actually has Martian Manhunter. We should add him.
Or just be like, oh shit, they're adding the Joker, therefore this must be very different. But the Joker scene is tacked on at the end and doesn't have anything to do with the rest of the plot, and the Martian Manhunter does literally nothing in the movie, so they feel very added in post.
Question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Jeff, because I have not seen the Joss Whedon version. Does Martha talk to Lois in the Joss Whedon version?
Yes, it's in a different context. Like, they're not in her apartment, they're at work. They're at, like, Lois's job, but more or less...
But it's the same kind of
stuff is said.
Conversation?
Yeah, similar conversation.
Yeah. That's so dumb!
Yeah. But no, it's the Martian Manhunter, because he'd have literally any reason to say that to Lois Lane, and, like, maybe must have been stalking her to know all of that intimate stuff about her. I don't fucking know.
I mean, he's a mind reader. He can... Remember, he's a mind reader.
Still...
That's not the hard part.
You got me there. But I mean, I feel like it's connected to this whole, like, oh, Lois is the key, and if she dies, Superman goes crazy thing.
Which, so fucking stupid.
There's a lot in this, like, there's a surprising amount in this movie that is setting up for a sequel that will never come, or hopefully will never come.
Hopefully. Oh my god, I hope that never
Because, like, there's surprisingly more in this movie that sets up for a sequel than there was in the original that notionally could have actually had a sequel, which is weird, but... yeah, I want to circle back. I want us to each fucking, I don't know, pick a scene to talk about. A scene added to this movie. If Jocelyn, if you pick a scene that was in the original, I'll tell you that while you say it.
Okay,
since
cool.
You haven't seen it. Well, or I mean, just pick a ridiculous scene, to be honest, because there's a lot in here that's just sort of like absurd.
Yeah, look, it's been a while since I've seen the Joss Whedon movies, so I actually cannot distinguish between
I take
original,
that back. It doesn't matter so much if it was something that was in the original.
Yeah, but I think it would behoove us to, like, go over any kind of differences.
Some of the differences. Yeah, you're right. Okay, so I've got a quick list here. I wrote it down on a pad and paper. How fancy am I? Some of the differences. There's going to be a few here that I didn't notice, and it's been like a week since I've watched the Snyder Cut, and I just watched the Joss Whedon cut to refresh myself. So I probably have some mismemory of some of those plot points converging, but here are the ones that I noticed. All right, so the big difference, the big main difference for me, Steppenwolf is completely redesigned. We'll talk more about his design because I know we all have, fucking thoughts on that. He's given a bit more of a backstory, not a ton of one, but a bit more. Darkseid is in this movie. Darkseid he was maybe hinted at in the original. I don't even think so necessarily. But he's actually in this movie, even if he doesn't do a whole lot. There's a lot of added scenes for each of the heroes, which we'll get to. This is another one I want to talk about. In this movie, as opposed to the original, there is absolutely no objection from any of the heroes at resurrecting Superman. There's a big argument in the first one.
Wait, really?
Whether or not that's right to do. Yeah.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah, because. Yeah, anyway,
because it's such a weird plot point.
Yeah.
That one is like I sort of,
and it's so weird that they actually show them digging up Superman's grave in both.
Oh my God! Yeah,
it's like,
yeah,
wow, our heroes.
We're doing
that whole thing.
We're grave robbing.
I sort of blame that whole thing on Dawn of Justice, to be honest, because I just feel like if they wanted to do a Justice League movie, then we should have fucking saved the death of Superman for later. I don't know, but
yeah, no, they blew their load.
I think that was they were written into a corner on that one.
Yeah. Like,
oh god,
some other differences. Lex Luthor scene is completely different. It's a lot of the same shots, but the dialogue is all different. In the original version, he calls Deathstroke to the ship, and then he's like, "What if we had a league of our own?" ?
Ew.
Yeah. And in this one, he's like, "Hey, I'm not crazy anymore. Don't worry. And also, I know Batman's name." And Deathstroke is like, "That's cool. That's a reason for me to sit down at the table." But then it doesn't matter because there's that whole extra scene where Deathstroke is just there. Then there's the post-apocalyptic Joker scene.
Which really doesn't do much of
that. That post-apocalyptic Joker scene is one of the most out-of-place things ever.
And
and also
stylistically,
character-wise. When I'm fucking watching a 4-hour movie, I'm just like looking for things that don't have to be there. And that is like one of the number one examples of just like, if you're not making a sequel to this movie, this has no reason to be in the movie at all, other than to say that you have the Joker in the trailer.
Also, partially because it's just a dream.
Yeah,
And I hated because I also have to say, I've only ever seen the extended director's edition of Batman vs Superman. So I know this is a shorter scene in the theatrical cut, but I hated with a passion that dream sequence because they didn't visually make it like they try to do a fake out and it just confuses you on what the plot is. And like, cause they try and make it seem like it's not a dream, but it is. And I'm like, you're messing with your audience here. Stop it.
Yeah, and it's also just like...
I hate that.
Also, just the post-apocalypse scene doesn't really communicate anything. We already know Superman goes evil. There's no point.
Lois dies, and we're not getting anything from this.
We're not getting anything from this.
It's
just also, like, in the Dawn of Justice scene, too, is just, like, it felt very blatant as a sequel setup, Like, it didn't feel like... they didn't put the Easter egg in there for people to grab onto to bring up into the sequel. It was only there for sequel bait, not for the plot of the movie at all. Right?
Yes.
And this
and in the extended
like
cut,
too,
it was even worse.
Yeah.
And like here's the thing. I think the whole Superman goes evil because Lois dies thing, I think it's just Snyder trying to do that plot point in the Justice League cartoon, where it's like in an alternate universe,
Ultraman or whatever.
No, not Ultraman. In an alternate universe, Flash is killed, and Superman, as a result, decides to just go.
Yeah, sorry, I got those two confused.
Yeah,
I forgot that wasn't the same thing as the Ultraman thing because it's very similar.
Flash dies, and Superman decides to just go full fascist and take over the world. And like there was a question in the main universe where it's like, what happens if that happens in this universe? Will Superman go evil? And there's like a whole big deal.
Okay, I'm just gonna say it. Superman going evil is dumb.
I know. I'm with you on this. If you want to go,
I will amend it by saying if you don't properly write it and give it the time it needs to get there, it's dumb.
Yeah, which is what the cartoon does well because it sets it up very, like, it carefully sets it up for a long time, while this just goes in without really establishing who Superman is or why we should be shocked.
Like, it feels like it discredits the character a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
It kind of like just.
You know what? Let me shine a little positivity in here real quick. You want a good Superman story? Read Superman Smashes the Klan. I read that recently. It's a really good Superman story. What Superman should be. And I'm so sick to death of the Superman goes evil plotline because they overdo it. Like, it's
I also just don't care about Superman. But that's a personal preference.
I don't know. I feel like I like Superman as a character. I just hate that the same stories that they always tell with him, Yes. Because, like, I like the idea of, like, I like the character in the Justice League where it's like, yeah, he is all about truth and justice and shit like that. Like, he's like, it's a fun character. Like, it just matters, like, how, when they start using him as an object in the story of, like, what if he went evil because he's too strong? I'm just like, shut up. Like,
and like, the thing is, it's overdone. It's in the movies. There's an upcoming Suicide Squad game where Superman goes evil.
Right, it's the fucking equivalent of them keep trying to do the fucking Dark Phoenix story in the X-Men movies.
Yeah, they never let it go in the comics. It's
yeah.
I don't know.
Well, anyway, back to the Snyder cut of it all.
Okay, so a few more notable differences. There is a lot more slow-mo scenes. The music is very different. When Superman comes back to life, he then takes up the black Superman suit and is a lot less campy than he was in the Joss Whedon version when he came back. And the whole, CGI lip thing is obviously fixed since they didn't use any of the new footage. And the final fight is very different. Like in the original final fight, they all definitely have defined roles, but there's none of the whole Barry running around in circles thing. And then when Superman shows up, he just helps Cyborg rip the cubes apart. And yeah, we can fucking get into the minutia of the differences, but the final fight is very different. So yeah, those are the main differences that I noticed. Chowder, I don't know if you remember any other ones specifically. Like there's a lot of like little things that are different, like lines that are tweaked or taken out or stuff like that. But
not
the only other thing that I know, because I've seen people talking about it, is that they gave more screen time to Cyborg and his storyline.
Which, you know what? Good.
Is like the only thing I liked about that movie.
Yeah, Cyborg
was Cyborg.
Yeah, no.
Having
Cyborg
just watched the original one again,
in the original movie, the Joss Whedon version, Cyborg had barely any lines, and the thing is, people did like the character. Like what Lily had, people did like that, but he was barely a character in the Joss Whedon version, whereas here, we do get to understand Cyborg better. He does get to be more of a character. So
the only thing that
I don't think it's entirely used totally well, though, because a lot of it is
I'm not saying
this movie just made me want a Cyborg movie.
Yeah.
My issue with this Justice League movie is that it came too early.
Yeah.
All of these plots for all of these characters that they're trying to do in one film should have been their own films.
Right, which is why all the characters, I feel really flat and sort of one note, because most of them didn't have movies establishing their characters. Because, I know we're getting a Flash movie, but, if he's not fucking toned down in that movie, that would be absurd. Because he is a side character in that, all of his lines are, comedic,
quippy,
comedic relief and shit like that. And he's just a weird sort of unlikable guy, and I don't know, maybe they could explore that as him having a certain kind of neuroses, or just being really antisocial and how that, but it's always used for laughs. I think in both versions of the movie, some of his weirder lines are taken out. He goes in the original one, he goes on some rant about brunch when Batman meets.
Yeah,
that's what is brunch? You just wait in line until it's lunch. What's the point? And it's just who wrote that and what was the point of that line?
It feels like Joss Whedon thought Flash was being played by Seinfeld or something.
I don't.
What is
that's
wrong?
The thing is, that's another line, Chowder, where I kind of don't believe that wasn't in the original version, because in the Snyder cut, the scene is exactly the same except without that line. So I don't believe that Joss Whedon went and.
I think that's something Joss Whedon added, because something you can tell about that particular scene is when the new shots are done and when the old shots are done, because he has a different hairstyle in the newer and old shots.
But here's the thing.
They did still.
He was still working off
of
the original Snyder stuff. As much as people want to say that these were going to be two different films, Joss Whedon picked up the film partway through.
Yeah.
Script was already written. It's not much of that was
Sure, but I think what Chowder is saying is that was one of the scenes that was added in after with reshoots, because of there was a whole thing with Ben Affleck's fluctuating weight and Barry's hairstyle and stuff like that if you're really looking for it, you can tell which stuff was shot later and which stuff wasn't. Stuff that isn't just as obvious as whenever Superman's lip looks like it's fucking doing the tango or whatever. But I'm not sure about
Snyder
that specifically.
Keep it in?
But that scene, it does show up in the Snyder cut. So
wait,
there
the
is
brunch shows up in the Snyder cut, or
no? The brunch line doesn't, but the rest of the scene does.
The rest
and
of the
plays
scene
exactly
does,
the same way. So I don't know. Like, I can't imagine that Joss Whedon would add that line only. Like,
he wouldn't do a pickup for one line.
Yeah, but like, yeah, I couldn't say for sure, but yeah, no, I do want to talk about some ridiculous scenes. There's one in my mind that I really have to talk about, which is our introduction to Barry Allen in this movie, where he is trying to get a job at I guess like a pet, like a vet or a dog walking agency or something like that.
Or maybe
and there's
like
a car crash
shop
out of the window, and this is when we first see his powers. He turns around, his shoes rip off, and then his love interest, Iris West, but like really she's just a person because she's not really in this movie, is flying through the air, coming out of the car. She has got like a name tag or something, but
a name tag.
Yeah. But like,
just like,
so she's flying out of the air, and he goes out to save her, and he like, there's like this romantic music going on in the background while he's just creepily staring at this woman in slow motion instead of actually saving her more efficiently. And then in the middle of this like quote unquote romantic, I would say creepy sequence, he just grabs a fucking hot dog out of the air that was part of a hot dog cart that also was involved in the crash, and just like casually, while he's rescuing this woman, picks up a fucking hot dog out of the air and puts it in his pocket. And I'm like, what is going on in this movie?
I mean, it does come back. Like,
yeah, it comes back. He's like, oh, but it's I always bring a meat treat for my dogs or whatever, and he's like feeding it to the dogs, which is still a fucking weird line. But it's just like, they're presenting this scene as this romantic thing of like, oh, look at, he's in love with this woman that he's just seen, which I think is creepy, but that's like a common movie kind of creepy that's supposed to be romantic, right? But it's all just made that a little extra bit weirder by the fact that he is also grabbing a loose hot dog out of the air while it's happening. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm glad you had mentally prepared me for that, because it was a lot to take in.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's because I was rushing through, but like, I guess I saw that scene of him looking at Iris West as like time slowing down, and he's like, oh shit, this is about to happen, and I gotta get into motion kind of thing, not up.
Sure. And that'll, like, it doesn't have to be creepy,
it's because
necessarily in the way that I described, right? But it could be like, he's living time at a different rate than everyone else, right? I would say that even if that were the intended message, and even if it worked totally well, that is still quite undercut by him grabbing a loose hot dog out of the air
definitely.
While it's happening.
I'm not arguing.
And also, what Jeff is talking about with the creepy thing is, it was the fact that leading up to that crash, you have him and this girl having a meet cute beforehand. Like, they're making eye contact. They were establishing something before the crash.
Oh wait, it's coming back to me. Okay, I get what you're saying.
And so it's like this was definitely meant to be like a setup, wink, wink, nudge, nudge thing, and it was weird.
It's very supposed to be like love at first sight kind of thing, which I think is
very
somewhat of an inherently creepy concept myself, but. Yeah, no, that's a scene I wanted to talk about. Are there any ones that stuck out to you guys?
I don't know if like any particular scene. Okay,
yeah, I mean, or just like tropes or
okay. Was this in the original? Because the concept to me was dumb. When they first find the first mother box, which is a dumb name.
I mean, that was from the
That's at least
comics.
A dumb name from the comics, though.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Most of these names are from the comics, and they're dumb. That's just, for par for the course. But that's a personal preference.
In the comics, it's charming because it's like, superhero.
It's the comics, yeah. It's a cute little thing, yeah. When people say it seriously, it is weird.
Yeah, absolutely.
But anyway, they get the first box at the Amazons, and this room,
Amazon Prime.
No, that's what I thought too. Like, I know what you're saying. It's just like
the Amazonians.
Themyscira is
Themyscira. Yeah, that's the name of the place. So Themyscira, that room had a skylight. First off, it had a skylight.
I never thought about that before.
I want to point that out because it's important for what happens next. They're in this big battle. A lot of people are dying. and they start sealing off doors.
Yeah.
To a room that has a skylight.
I assume the skylight also closes, but they never showed.
But they never showed or implied that closed.
But also, like, the way that
the only thing that they did was it had everything fall into the ocean, which is like, okay, kind of, but then you didn't really need the doors to close.
So to answer your question, Jocelyn, yes, that scene was in the original. The main difference was they didn't have the whole blow it up and have it fall into the ocean thing. They just closed the doors like that, and then he just, like, broke a hole through the wall, because it's just fucking stone.
Somebody once told me the world.
So at least in this version, they tried to also drown him, I guess.
Yeah. Okay.
But, like, man, all of that was dumb.
And maybe we can use this to transition to talking about the redesign of...
I want to talk about
sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no. So, I guess it's a series of scenes, really, but it's like, the choice to have Darkseid appear and also to have, like, Darkseid come to Earth and get his ass beat there. Like, he got taken out by arrows and lightning, and it's like, this is the final boss, and we just saw him get served hands. Way to undercut the threat of the ultimate evil of your story, you know? Like, he lost to arrows, man.
Well, I mean, I think part of the point of that was like, like, our Earth's forces were so strong before. Really, I would just say it had less to do with their being united and more to do with the fact that the gods were there helping.
But no, here's the thing. Darkseid's supposed to be the ultimate evil. He's supposed to be the new god. The god above the gods. The guy superior to the gods. And that's what makes him such a threat.
Sure.
You know?
But that's like a comics thing. They don't have to have him be that powerful for him to still be threatening, you know, if they're doing an adaptation.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, like, as a non-comic book reader, you don't necessarily need or want to set that up in your films because you have all of these bad guys. They can't all be the biggest you know, like, it's picking which villains you want to be your Thanos.
Yeah, I get that. But at the same time, this movie clearly, like, sets up Darkseid as the Thanos of this universe, you know? The one this is all leading up to, and we know he can be beat.
Wait, is he supposed to be coming back? Because if he's the Thanos, then they should have, like, that's the thing is, I don't see him as a Thanos because they dealt with him in one film.
Well, he's not. He's still there. Like, you know, they still have him as the threat. He doesn't get killed or anything like that.
Yeah, but, like, I don't know. It doesn't feel like he is because they never fought Thanos in the Marvel movies. He was in the shadows and stuff was happening to lead up to him, but he didn't actually do anything in the movies.
I mean, that's also true of Darkseid in this one, to be fair.
No, that's my point. The mystique of Darkseid is gone. Like, this is supposed to be the final boss, and he doesn't really feel that special anymore, you know?
Right. I mean, it's because, like, they wanted to add him back into the movie, and they wanted to show him doing something, so they basically, like, in the original cut of the movie, like, that scene was still mostly there. It was a little bit expanded on in the Snyder cut, but it was there, except it was just Steppenwolf there instead of Darkseid.
Yeah, and he gets served hands.
Can we fucking talk about, though, how, like, and this is, like, one of the things that I was grappling with the most after watching the Snyder cut is that there's this scene in the middle where Steppenwolf discovers that the anti-life equation is on Earth, right? Which means it's the planet that Darkseid was defeated at before, and he's like, yo, Master, I found out that this is the planet that you were beat on all those years ago, and, like, this is the planet you have to get your revenge on to get the anti-life equation. But, like, how the fucking shit did Darkseid not know what fucking planet it was before? Like, isn't that the reason the mother boxes are here? Like, you knew about the planet because that's how you lost the mother boxes, is you were defeated here. So how do you remember the mother boxes is here but not remember that's where you were defeated? Like, what is that plot for?
No, what confuses me is that, like, you know, he says, we've been searching for the primitive planet, and it's like, you got your ass handed to you here. Why would you need to search?
Yeah, like, you know where it is, right? Like Darkseid, you were literally there, my guy.
Also, why did it take you that long to come back to Earth? You could have come in a little bit earlier.
Like, before Superman was there?
I mean, I'm assuming he had to regroup in some fashion,
over like thousands of years.
It seemed like it was a pretty devastating blow. I don't know.
Devastating blow, but thousands of years. Like,
my issue here is that they don't actually really explain anything about what this dude's plan is. Like,
yeah,
I don't know what this man's aim was when he came the first time. I don't, other than like destroying the planet, which maybe it's just because I tune out when there's someone droning on and on.
Oh yeah, no, there's a lot of droning on and on.
But it's when you put all of this stuff as like someone telling a story over shots that with annoying dramatic music, I tune out.
Yeah.
Like, so if that's how you're going to tell me what a villain is up to, every single time you're going to tell me what the villain is trying to do, I'm not going to understand it because...
But, like, here's the thing. I do know what Darkseid's ultimate goal is, but only because, like, of knowledge outside the movie. I feel
like other media.
If I didn't know who Darkseid was, if I didn't know what the anti-life equation was, which, by the way, is just, like, a math equation that lets you mind control people, I wouldn't get the significance. I wouldn't get any...
Yeah, like that. I watched that entire movie going, I don't understand what's happening. I don't understand the villain side of this because they haven't told me anything. They keep saying all these names and expecting me to understand what they mean and not actually telling me or showing me any of it. And that is a constant issue that they have now.
Right, like it feels like another one of those like convoluted editions where it's like, oh, they wanted to say Darkseid is in this movie now, but like the whole thing just becomes really convoluted because like of course he would remember what planet he was on. Like it's weird because the whole like they could have left all the Darkseid stuff in as is and just not mentioned the anti-life equation and had it been the same but make more sense, right? Like the anti-life equation thing seems to only be setting up like, oh, what happens when Darkseid comes back? But again, this movie is not going to have a sequel. At least that's what they're saying. So
I hope it doesn't have a sequel.
Yeah.
Yeah, like and I probably would have had the same issue with the shorter version. I DC needs to stop, like, and this is probably a very controversial opinion, I don't read a lot of the normal comics for DC. I don't read Superman comics. I don't read pretty much any of DC's comics, really. Like
90% of superhero comics kind of suck anyway, so you're not missing out much.
Yeah.
Yes, but it keeps feeling like they expect me to have read all of these comics and know all of these arcs. That is the one thing that I think Marvel has kind of, much to a lot of people's disappointment, they water down the comics so that it's understandable. They're not using all of these terms and lingo that only those people who read that comic line are going to pick up on. Yeah. Because it's hard to continue watching when I don't know what the hell this equation is and what it means. You know, like, it's just not enjoyable as a viewer to have words spouted at me and I'm supposed to know what they are and I just don't.
Yeah, and it's like Darkseid is from a different series of comics called The New Gods, and like, unless you know...
Cool, why does that matter though?
Yeah, no, that's the thing. Like, unless you know what the New Gods are and like what is Darkseid's significance, it doesn't matter who Darkseid is. Darkseid doesn't matter. He's someone you have to set up because there's a lot to him and you can't just have him step in, say, I'm the big bad evil guy, and expect people to care.
Right. Well, it's the same thing, like, with Thanos, right? Is, like, they had to actually, like, give him motivation, which, of course, differed a little bit from the comic motivation, but it's like, well, yeah, they had to make it something that was less, like, weird and heady for the movie.
And understandable for a general audience.
Yeah, and
right?
also, like, what they did with Thanos was, like, they had the event happen, then they show Thanos, and it's like, for those who know Thanos, that's like a hit of serotonin? Dopamine? I don't know what that is, but dopamine, yes.
Happiness?
Happiness is serotonin. But
a hit of dopamine, for those who recognize him, but for like general audiences, it's like, oh man, this is the guy behind all the insane shit that I just saw. That's mysterious. There is a mystique to this guy. I wonder.
Right, like you don't necessarily need to know anything about him yet.
Yeah, exactly. But like with Darkseid, you kind of have to know who Darkseid is to care about who Darkseid is in this movie.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I feel like, if they didn't, I feel like you have to know who Darkseid is to understand the significance of the whole anti-life equation thing, right?
Exactly.
I feel like they could still have him be in this movie as this guy is dangerous and not explain why if they're planning to follow through with that later, still have him being a teased thing.
Right?
They
could have had him coming from that metal stone thing, checking up on him and getting angry. That was fine. Sure. That was all I needed. It was okay, this is an underling. Steppenwolf isn't the actual bad guy here. That's fine. Right. Then
it would feel more like Thanos in Guardians, how Thanos is there. This is before he's a significant character, and he's different, obviously, but and
you're hearing his name, and you're hearing about stories. It's not just
you're being set up why he's dangerous.
Yeah, that's my big issue with this film, is that I felt like I had to have read 20 comics to actually engage with it and understand it.
And even then, they weren't terribly accurate to that either.
And in Guardians of the Galaxy, it doesn't really matter who Thanos is. What matters is how Gamora reacts to Thanos, the idea of Thanos.
Right, exactly.
And is there anything I else want to talk about? Hold on, I've cataloged my reactions on this phone.
There's a couple little things I want to talk about. I was going to talk about this briefly when Jocelyn was talking about the scene where he takes the mother boxes, and this is a real one-note thing, but if we want to talk a little bit about fucking Steppenwolf's new design, first of all, I'm going to say I like it better than the original version, because the original version looks kind of like a fucking PS2 cutscene in terms of CGI.
I think they're both choices, so I commend them for both having stylistic choices in mind.
Yeah, I just think he's a little bit more interesting in the new version. Not maybe enough interesting, but there's a really fucking funny thing to me where they're he's got this crazy spiky armor that moves around with him, which is kind of cool. Chowder's got some other thoughts on that, but to demonstrate its usages, in the scene where he's stealing the mother box from Themyscira, they shoot him with a bunch of arrows, and then he flexes and his armor snaps off the fucking arrows or whatever. But I just want to fucking say, if the armor allowed him to get shot by arrows and then he snapped them out, those arrowheads are still in his fucking body.
And now just harder to get to.
Yeah.
There's a part where he's going through some cars and he gets angry because he can't find the thing he's looking for, and when he gets angry, he the spikes shoot out like he's a cat,
a Pomeranian,
fucking porcupine,
hissing, and it's that was supposed to be. They seriously, unironically thought that was cool, and it just looks so silly. He looks like a cat when it's hissing and
yeah, he's kind of cute, to be honest.
Yep.
I liked the visual aesthetic of his armor in this. I didn't really watch the first one, and I have some screen grabs up of the old one, and I don't like it, so I agree. I like the new one, but the functionality is not good, but I do really like the aesthetic.
Here's the thing: I don't like the new armor. It's over designed. There's too much to it. There's too much moving parts. The whole thing blurs together.
I don't necessarily like the new armor. I like it a hell of a lot more than the old armor, which may be more to do with the CGI budget, as opposed the redesign. I think it just is better from a visual effects standpoint.
It goes inside, it coincides with the design they did for the cubes. Mm-hmm. It makes thematic sense in a way. Is it too busy? Yes, but it's at least trying to go for something.
But speaking of fucking being too busy though, right? If they're doing all these redesigns, they couldn't have redesigned Cyborg? Really? He just looks really bad. I really hate the Cyborg design, which is the same in both movies, but it's so weird and spindly, and he's got too much of a booty. And
There's no such thing, Jeff.
I hate the choice to make him this somber, stoic character. I know in the comics that's actually what he's more like, but
most people know the Teen Titans.
I like the Teen Titans cartoons.
I was telling Jeff when we were first watching it, or when I was just live tweeting to him as I was watching it for the entire 4 hours. But the reason I want more of him and more of his story is because I think he eventually can get back to the more upbeat and fun thing, but I liked that we actually got to see character from him. He was the only one who it felt like I had an understanding of how we got here.
Yeah, and that's like one thing the Snyder version does better than the Whedon version, because in the Whedon version he was barely a character, barely even had any lines.
He did have some fun though. Like I know this is a Whedon thing, and like he added it in, and like it seems a little tonally weird, but there was like more humor in the Whedon version, and some of it I felt was kind of humanizing. Like, it kills me, and I knew that it wasn't going to show up again, that like in this version of the movie, at the end after they beat the guy, Cyborg doesn't go booyah, because that was in the original version. And then there's this whole fucking funny scene where like right after they separate the mother boxes, there's like this huge like explosion, and both Superman and Cyborg fall to the ground, and Superman's like, I take it back, I want to die, and Cyborg's like, I my toes hurt, I don't even understand the physics of how my toes hurt. And I liked those. I like that kind of Joss Whedon-y humor, where it's just like the characters being human and having a fun old time, you know? So, like, that I miss a little bit, but...
He could have used more levity in this version.
Yeah, but, like, I feel like for every, like, hit that, like, Whedon does with his jokes, there's, like, 10 bad ones. So it holds...
Yeah, I mean, in this movie, for sure. I would, there, like, some other, you know, like, I think that most in his other... Like, not to fucking sit here defending Joss Whedon, because, again, bad fucking dude, but, like, in a lot... like, in the Avengers movies, I think that they land a little bit more consistently, where I think they didn't land as well in this one because it felt so tonally off, because like the rest of it was like trying to be this dark vision that took itself too seriously. Right. So like then it just feels like it's awkwardly breaking from the form whenever there's like a joke or something like that. But
True.
Yeah, I don't know, because like that was one of the problems I had with this one. I mean, the first one too, but especially this one, is that it had this air of feeling like it took itself too seriously. Like there was, you know, like all of these fucking drawn out slow motion scenes, and the music, which I don't even like have the musical knowledge to describe why it was so bad, but it was like, I don't know what the term is for this, but you know that kind of music that they use whenever in like Hollywood movies, whenever there's like some ancient foreign civilization. Where it, like I the one that I can think of is it happened in Avatar, where there's like this weird sort of like throat singing. That's not even the right term, but it's like like, you know, that kind of music.
Oh yeah, the one they use whenever they show an Islamic country in a real world setting in a movie.
Yes,
you know, it's
exactly.
Like
in this movie, they use it every single time Wonder Woman did literally anything, and it drove me nuts. Because it's like it just has this air of like Hollywood racism to it, that it's just like it feels like it's like trying to take itself too seriously, but also like it's just missing the mark in such a cliche way that is like pretty racist, I think.
They're trying to be racist, but I don't know to who is what you're thinking.
Yeah, right, exactly. Because it's racist in that, like, oh, we can just make up countries as the United States and have them have this weirdly, you know, like Islamic Middle Eastern vibe to them that is pretty inaccurate.
Yeah, which is basically the purpose of Bialia in DC Comics, so
right.
Expect to see that bullshit.
They continued that kind of weird motif so much, but also Jeff and I were talking about this. They did it with Aquaman too, but like diegetically.
Oh right, with like the Icelandic, like the ladies singing in Icelandic.
Oh my god, I forgot about that. Like, I already thought that scene was weird in the original one when Bruce Wayne shows up to this little Icelandic town and the entire town is just standing outside watching him walk into the fucking like bar or whatever. But then like when fucking Aquaman leaves and goes and swims off into the ocean, this was not in the original. One of the girls in the fucking crowd just starts singing, like,
for no reason.
And then, like, all of the women join in, and she just keeps singing for an uncomfortably long time.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like it was bad singing or anything. It was just, it felt so tonally weird and out of place
it's the same sort of vibe where it's just like, oh, look at this funny, weird foreign nation acting this certain weird foreign way because they're not actually people, is how it felt. It's the same kind of thing as the music for me.
They were definitely going for like this is a god among men, and we are treating him with that respect.
Yeah.
But like, boy, did it not land.
Like, why was she singing?
Yeah, it's so fucking weird.
I was fine with it until she sang for like a full minute straight with the camera on her, to the point where I was like, is this woman important? Are we gonna see her again? Should I be remembering who she is? No, she does not matter.
Are they just trying to do like Anne Hathaway from Les Mis?
But like that was like, it's like, I'm fine. I like, the music didn't confuse me that badly. It was like, okay, I kind of get it. The scene makes a little bit of sense. It's really like, they're just respecting this god in their cultural way. That's cool. Cut it.
Yeah, right, exactly. Like, that's...
Cut it by like 3 minutes.
But it would also, like, maybe make a bit more sense if there was, like, any more follow-up to that. But there's no significance to the people in this Icelandic city treating Aquaman like he's a god, like, at all, right? Like, he's just a dude bro for the rest of the movie, you know?
Yeah.
And like
it's
so again,
weird.
it's twofold for me, because it's this whole thing of like just these weird sort of heady, like, abstract moments that like feel like the movie's taking itself too seriously, but also, again, when I am watching a 4-hour movie, I am looking for anything that should be cut. And that was another thing, is just like, this has, even if it's an interesting sequence in the abstract, you have to be able to look at this movie in its entirety and be like, we don't have time for this, because it has no significance to the movie, you know?
Yeah, if it doesn't have any actual cultural significance for those actual people that it's trying to represent, we don't need it. It feels like a hollow gesture.
Yeah.
Like, the way the entire movie is shot, with like shots that like linger on, and people making pregnant pauses whenever they talk a lot. It's like he was obsessed with like Sergio Leone spaghetti westerns, like The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, Once Upon a Time in the West. And like, but he didn't get why Sergio Leone did that, why he made his movie so long, why there were these long moments where the camera just held still. He just did it because Sergio Leone did it, and Sergio Leone was cool, so...
Yeah, like, it felt like he was trying to tap into something, like, film historical, but didn't really understand the significance of what, you know, it's just like using things that he found neat in other movies without understanding what the purpose of them was, I think, is a pretty good summary of that, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, I would love to keep talking about this for eons, but we should move forward to the ratings section. All right. Thank you both for a very lengthy and drawn-out discussion. Not that I think it was that bad of a discussion. I've just tried to pull it back to the movie, which is lengthy and drawn-out.
Honestly, it's only a little above an hour. Still better than Snyder's pacing.
No, yeah, I wasn't trying to throw shade on ourselves more as I was trying to just pull it back to the overall thing with the Snyder
Why
cut.
Are we
but
here?
we are going to be moving on to the rating section, where each of us, I actually have one this time, are going to rate the topic on a scale of 1 to 10 loose hot dogs being taken out of the air by Barry Allen's The Flash.
I hate you.
I just love that scene so much. Completely for ironic reasons, but it's just my favorite scene in both fucking movies.
Wait, so we're saying how much we liked the Snyder cut?
Yeah. I mean, I think when it gets around to me, I'm not going to ask either of you to do this because, Jocelyn, you haven't seen the original, and Chowder, it's been a minute, but I'm going to briefly talk about which one I thought was better, or at least talk about some pros and cons when it rolls around to me. But for now, we'll just do it as a normal rating section. Just treat it as a movie in and of itself.
I mean, I think I'm gonna say which I think is better, just because.
Yeah, that's fine. I just didn't want to put you in that box. If you know.
And you can go first, Chowder.
Oh, okay.
1 to 10 hot dogs. Tell me how it goes.
Let's see. If we were talking about the original Whedon version, I give it like 3, 4, something like that. With the Snyder version, despite all my complaining, I actually put it one above Whedon. It's just slightly better. So if I give Whedon a 3, Snyder's a 4. If I give Whedon a 4, Snyder's a 5.
So you're giving it a number of hot dogs relative to its length?
Hold on a second. Okay.
Sorry.
No, that was amazing. I love that.
Okay. You know what Einstein always says? Hot dogs are relative.
So, here's why. Like, it becomes very clear that, like, anything that was good about the original, it was Snyder's contributions and not Whedon's. And, like, if you're inclined to like Snyder's aesthetic, this movie really is more of the good stuff. And, like, I hate Snyder. I hate his movies. But, like, it is ultimately the more interesting version, even if it drags on way the fuck too long. So, yeah, that's what I have to say about it.
All right, fair enough. Joss? Lynn? Not Joss Whedon, of course.
Okay. I give it to freewheeling wieners. One of them is for Cyborg.
Okay,
he gets a treat. This movie, like, so my thing with this movie is it is 4 hours.
Yeah.
It does not need to be.
Yeah.
I could probably edit this into 3 different films.
Which originally it was supposed to be like split into like 6 parts, and then they're just like, no, let's just make it 4 hours.
Well, but like if I had 3 films, 2 of them are, you know, introducing characters that we should have gotten actual introductions for.
Yeah.
And then the third one was whatever the rest of this stupid plot was of resurrecting someone from the dead. Those 2 movies would be great. That third one is still dumb.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, I just... The potential of what was in the Snyder Cut is at least something.
Yeah.
So that's why I give it 2. Because there was potential for something to be decently made out of all of this. Neither of them, I will say, without having seen the Joss Whedon version, that neither of them are great.
Yeah. Yeah.
But potential was there, and so so Cyborg gets a hot dog, and the potential gets a hot dog.
Okay. A quick addendum. Yes, no, the Whedon version gets 2, Snyder gets 3. That is my final answer.
Darn.
Fair enough. So I don't know. I feel like I might land up sort of on the opposite end as Chowder here, because, like, when I watched the Snyder Cut, I was like, wow, that was better than the Joss Whedon version. Which I remember I liked the Joss Whedon version well enough when it came out, just because I heard it was going to be so bad that I wasn't expecting it to be good, that I was like, oh, that was kind of more enjoyable than I thought it would be, right? And then, you know, in retrospect, I'm like, oh yeah, that was really bad. But then when I watched the Snyder version, I'm like, that was better. And then more recently, when I just watched the Joss Whedon version again, I kind of went back and forth where I was like, no, actually, I think I might have liked that version better, because, like, when I think about all of the things in the movie that really stick out to me as, like, huge problems, most of my big problems were in the Snyder Cut. You know, like, there's problems that I have with both movies that they share, but I feel like there are more cons to the improvement of the Snyder Cut to me than there are pros. Like, I've got a list here where it's like, my pros are like, Steppenwolf looks way better and feels like he's got more of a character. The Lex Luthor scene, I think, was better. Flash is less annoying. We don't have Superman's lip as an issue, and there's no scene where fucking Flash and Superman go and save that Russian family randomly. Right? Those are my pros. My cons are, now no one has any issues with resurrecting Superman. I think that's a huge problem for me. The music is a lot worse. I mean, the music in the original wasn't incredible, but, like, I didn't have as much of an overt problem with it. There's too much slow-mo, and, like, nonsensical, heady nonsense. We didn't really need the Joker scene at all. Martian Manhunter has no business being in the movie. They have less defined roles in the final fight, and it just like feels a little bit messier than in the original. It's 4 fucking hours long, and Darkseid fucking forgot what planet he was on. Those are all my problems, which are exclusive to the Snyder cut. And overall, like, I feel like they would have evened out in some way of like, I like some things better in the original, I like some things better in this one. But then when I come to it, it's like, but it is 4 hours of my life that I'll never get back. So I think I fall with the Snyder cut being on a 2 for me and the Whedon cut being on a 3. That's sort of where I land. So I'm still in the same boat of they're both bad films, but I kind of feel like I like the original one better just because it wastes less of my time. And I really feel like the majority of the added length to the Snyder cut is like...
to a detriment.
To its detriment, right? Like, there's not much that was added that I'm like, oh, that's better. Like, most of the stuff that I can like in each of these movies is mostly in both of them, to be honest.
I just realized why the music's bad.
Why is that?
He didn't want to have to pay someone to do a score for 4 hours.
Yeah, that's a pretty good explanation for it, but...
Like, literally, he probably used a lot of stock, like... Because we do that, too. Like, grab stock music... and pay for the stock music and just lay it under where you need it to and make it work. Yeah. The main thing with it for me was the fucking, the weird, like we talked about, the weird pseudo Middle Eastern, like Hollywood stock crap music. Like, that drives me absolutely nuts. But I think that's... Oh, God. It's just... the music was bad. It was bad. Yeah, that's gonna have to be where we wrap this one up. But thank you all for listening to the Common Geeking program. Again, I've been your host, Jeff Leavitt. You can find me. I've got an Instagram where I once upon a time posted art stuff, and maybe I will again someday in the future, called Things I Wish Existed. There's a dot between each word. And I've got a YouTube channel where I do toy reviews, mostly Transformers stuff. That's Alchemist Prime Reviews on YouTube. Again, I've been joined by Chowder and Jocelyn. And you guys have anything you want to toss out there?
Hi, I'm Chowder or Taeemul Chowdhury. You can find me at Taeemul Chowdhury on Twitter. You can also find me on our sister podcast, Dice Populi, where I am a cast member.
Woo!
I just did a little... Call of Cthulhu one-shot that I'm a little proud of, even if it ain't perfect.
Be proud. I'm Jocelyn, and I don't have socials that I'll give out, but watch Mau Mau Heroes of Pure Heart and Tig Tone in the Series, 2 very tonally different shows, on HBO Max. And potentially, you know what? I'll say it. Soon, eventually... Critical Role on Amazon Prime.
Oh, fuck. Are you allowed to say that now?
I'm allowed to say I'm on it.
That's nice. Nice.
Not that I can say much more. But, yeah. Watch Critical Role on Amazon Prime. Whenever Eventually. But
our next episode is going to be airing on, of course, the 3rd Friday in May, which will be, how long can I stretch out this sentence before I open the calendar? Will be May 21st. So tune in for that. But of course, we'll have another briefing program where we cover the geek news on May 7th, the first Friday in May. So also look forward to that. And without further ado, thank you for listening, subscribing, sharing, and everything else that you do for us. And we'll talk to you next time.
The Common Geeking program is hosted by Jeff Leavitt, joined this episode by Taeemul Chowdhury and Jocelyn Barkenhagen. This episode is sponsored by Absurdism. One must imagine the editor's happy. The podcast is created and produced by Colin, Ketchen, and Jeff Leavitt, and features original music by Colin Ketchen. This episode was edited by me, Taeemul Chowdhury, as well as Jeff Leavitt. We'd love for you to stay engaged with us on social media at Geeking Program or by using #CGP. If you want to know more about us and all of our other projects, head to commongeekingprogram.com. Stay in touch, stay tuned, and as always, thank you for listening to this podcast.
I keep waiting for you to say ciao, like you do. You haven't done it the last couple times, and it's killing me. It's just killing me inside, Chowder. It's like you waiting for the fucking Joker line that just never showed up of the "We live in a society." I'm just sitting here waiting for the ciao to end our show, but you're just gonna leave me fucking hanging here, aren't you?
Ciao.
Jeff, we live in a society.
We live in a society. Oh, Christ.